there, in this video, we are learning how to simplify the surds. So now, before we begin to the examples, here we have got the two square root numbers written. So the first number is a root 2, where the next number is a root 9. We try to simplify to both the numbers and let's see what we're going to come out with. Because root 2 is such a number, we cannot simplify it more, but we can change that into the decimal form. This would be 1.4142 and there are more digits after. Now, simplifying this square root 9, because 9 is a square number, so it can be simplified to 3. So in simple words, surds are those numbers, even after the simplification, you cannot get rid of the square root from them. And root 9 is not a surd number because when you simplified it, it turned to the whole number. Here we're going to look to some examples that how we can simplify the surds numbers. So the simplification of the surd number is mainly based on the square numbers. So I've written down the square numbers on the side, which is 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64, 81 and 100. To do the simplification of any surd number, we try to split that into a multiple of the square number. So this is root 18 and we know that the root 18 can be written as 9 times 2. Now we're going to split these square root numbers into root 9 and root 2 separately because we know that 9 is a square number, so it can be written as 3, where root 2 cannot be simplified further, so it would remain the same. So the simplification of the square root 18 would be 3 root 2. Let's have a look to the next example now. So we're having the next example where we have got the number root 98. Root 98 is an even number, so we try to see that if I divide that by 2, so what I'm going to get? So 2 times 49 will going to make root 98. I'm going to split both the numbers separately, so that root 2 times by root 49. And now because we know that 49 is a square number, so this can be simplified to 7 and we'll get 7 root 2 here. Let's have a look to the next example. So now this time we are having square root 45 can be split as a multiple of the square number by 9 and 5. We're going to split the square root numbers, so 9 and 5 separately. And now because we know that 9 is a square number, so it can be written as 3, where root 5 would stay the same. Now the next number we see is 96. And to split this 96 as a multiple of any square number would be, this 96 goes in a 4 times table. So we can rewrite that in the form of 4 times 24. So because now we know that 4 is a square number, so first of all we're going to split that in a 2 square root numbers, which is the first number is the 4 and the next is 24. Now because we know that this 4 is a square number, so it would be simplified to 2 root 24. But we always check to the square, the number we have got in the square root, that is that the most simplified form, or further this number we can still split that into any square number. So we see that this 24 can further split as a square number by 4 and 6. So we're going to split the square roots again, which would be root 4 times root 6. Because this 4 is a square number, so it would be written as, there's a 2 already here, then the simplification of the root 4 is a 2, which will go here, and there's a root 6 then. Because we are having two numbers written without the square root, we're going to multiply them together, and the multiplication of 2 and 2 would be 4, so we get the final answer, which would be 4 root 6. Now here we have got the other two examples. So we see that now we have got some number already written outside the square root. So I'm going to write it down now. The 5 remains as a 5 and this 45 can be written as a multiple of the square number by 9 and 5. Now because we know that this 9 is a square number, so it would be written as 5 times 3 times root 5. Where the two numbers written outside the square root will going to multiply each other, so it would be 15 root 5. Let's have a look to the next example now. So we have got 5 written outside the square root. And inside the square root, we are having a number 180. So we keep this 5 remains the same. We are going to split this 180 as a multiple of the square number. So because we know that 9 times 2 makes 18, so 9 times 20 we're going to make 120. We're going to split this square root now. So 5, this root 9 and root 20 can be written as separately. Because 9 is a square number, so it can be written as 5 times 3 times root 20. Now we look to the square root number root 20 and see that are we still able to simplify it. So I'm going to first of all multiply the two numbers written outside the square root together, and that would give us 15. Now this root 20 can be split as the two multiples, which is 4 and 5. But we know that 4 is a square number, so that could be written outside the square root would be 2. And this root 5 would remains the same. So when you do 15 times 2, you'll come out with 30, and 30 root 5 is the simplification. Okay, now we're going to look to the next example now. So we see that now we're having a number written outside the square root, which is 9, which we're going to keep the same. And the number written inside the square root is 125. So we try to split this 125 into the multiple of the square number. And we know that 25 times 5 would make 125. Now we're going to split them separately. So 25 and 5 can be written as a separate square root numbers. Now we know that because 25 is a square number, so it can be written as 5. But this remain the same, which is the root 5. We're going to multiply the two numbers written outside the square root together, which is 9 times 5 makes 45, and this root 5 would remains the same. Now we have got the last example on our topic, which is the Surds simplification. And we're going to begin with the same thing, which is to keeping the number written outside the square root the same. But to split this 200, we know that 200 goes in a 100 times table, so 100 times 2 would be a 200. Now we're going to split the numbers written inside the square root by 100 and by root 2. So because we know that 100 is a square number, it can be written as 10. So 2 times 10 times root 2. The two numbers written outside the square root, we're going to multiply them together. So it would be 20 root 2 would be the simplification of 2 root 200. So these are all the examples on the Surds simplification. And I hope you find this video useful in understanding this topic. And thanks for watching the video.